Okay, so you want to own a shopping mall. You picture a giant building filled with clothing stores, restaurants, jewelry counters, cinemas, and hundreds of people carrying shopping bags. Every tenant pays rent. Customers spend their own money. The mall owner collects monthly checks from almost every doorway in the building. It sounds like the ultimate landlord business. And this dream feels especially strange today because you can already buy almost anything from your phone. You can order shoes from bed, receive them tomorrow, and return them without entering a store. In the first quarter of 2026, e-commerce represented 16.9% of total retail sales in the United States. So naturally, people have spent years saying the shopping mall is dying. But the strongest malls are not behaving like dead assets. Simon Property Group ended 2025 with reported occupancy of 96.4% across its U.S. malls and premium outlets. Retailers in that portfolio generated average sales of roughly $799 per square foot. The best properties are almost full. Their tenants are selling more merchandise per square foot than before. Yet other mall owners have entered bankruptcy, transferred properties to lenders, and watched once important department stores become empty concrete boxes. Same basic building, same idea of collecting rent from retailers. Completely different financial outcomes. So the question is not whether people still visit shopping centers. They clearly do. The question is what makes one mall a productive destination while another becomes an expensive building surrounded by empty parking spaces. By the end of this, you will understand where mall income comes from, why high occupancy can still hide weak cash flow, and what separates valuable retail real estate from a property waiting to be redeveloped. The first thing to understand is that not every shopping center is the same asset. A regional enclosed mall may contain more than 1 million square feet of retail space. It usually depends on several large anchors, hundreds of smaller stores, food, entertainment, and a large parking field. A premium outlet center operates differently. It uses brand-name discount stores, outdoor walkways, tourism, and destination shopping to attract customers from a wider area. A lifestyle center may resemble a walkable town street, combining restaurants, retail, entertainment, offices, hotels, or apartments. A neighborhood shopping center may depend on a grocery store and serve people living only a few miles away. All four collect rent, but they compete for different customers, need different tenants, and respond differently when shopping behavior changes. Owning a mall also does not always mean controlling every visible part of the property. A department store may own its own building and the land underneath it. It may control part of the parking lot through a reciprocal operating agreement. The mall owner may control the corridors and small shops, but not the empty anchor blocking one end of the building. This creates one of the strangest risks in commercial real estate. You can own the mall and still lack full control over the most important box attached to it. Before receiving rent, the owner must first acquire or build the property. A major regional mall requires valuable land near highways, population, employment, and household income. It needs roads, utilities, drainage, parking, loading areas, fire systems, and enough electrical capacity for hundreds of tenants. The building contains enormous roofs, air conditioning systems, escalators, elevators, plumbing networks, service corridors, security systems, and public areas. A customer sees shops. The owner sees a small city with one roof. Most buyers do not purchase this kind of asset entirely with cash. They combine equity with a commercial mortgage, bonds, joint venture capital, or other real estate financing. The amount a lender will provide depends heavily on the property's net operating income, tenant quality, lease terms, and expected value. That debt can increase the return on the owner's equity. It can also make a temporary leasing problem permanent. Rent may decline for 2 years. The mortgage payment does not agree to wait. Now consider the first major source of income, base rent. Most tenants agree to pay a minimum amount for the space they occupy. A small jeweler's store may pay far more per square foot than a department store. That sounds backwards until you understand what each tenant contributes. The small shop needs a valuable location near existing traffic. The anchor occupies a huge box and is expected to create some of that traffic. Historically, Mall owners often accepted low anchor rent because the department store increased the value of hundreds of smaller leases around it. The anchor was not only a tenant, it was part of the marketing system. The second revenue layer comes from common area and operating expense recoveries. The owner pays for security, cleaning, lighting, landscaping, snow removal, utilities, waste handling, insurance, and property taxes. Many leases require tenants to reimburse a share of those expenses. The charge may be based on occupied area, a negotiated formula, or a fixed annual amount. This means part of the mall's reported lease income is not pure rent. It is money collected to offset the cost of operating the shared property. If operating costs rise faster than recoveries, the owner absorbs the difference. If tenants dispute charges or negotiate caps, the recovery becomes even less complete. The third revenue layer is percentage rent. Some leases require a tenant to pay additional rent after store sales exceed a specified threshold. The landlord receives minimum rent during ordinary periods and participates when a location performs especially well. This aligns the mall's income with tenant productivity. It also makes accurate sales reporting important. A busy corridor is not valuable simply because people are walking through it. It becomes valuable when those people enter stores and create sales that support higher rent. The fourth revenue layer comes from temporary and supplemental uses. Kiosks can sell food, cosmetics, phone accessories, gifts, or seasonal merchandise in common areas. Digital screens, wall signs, parking lot displays, and sponsorship agreements create advertising income. Events can bring in pop-up markets, product launches, holiday displays, and community programming. A successful mall does not treat the corridor as empty space between stores. It treats the entire property as sellable access to a concentrated audience. The fifth revenue layer comes from parking, services, and surrounding land. Urban malls may charge for parking or share revenue with a parking operator. Owners can provide way services, energy services, facility operations, and management services to tenants or partner properties. Land beside the mall can be leased or sold for restaurants, banks, hotels, medical offices, or apartment buildings. These smaller parcels can be extremely valuable because the roads, utilities, visibility, and customer traffic already exist. The sixth source of value is redevelopment. An old department store can become several restaurants, a fitness club, entertainment venue, grocery store, medical facility, or smaller retail spaces. Part of a parking field can become apartments, offices, hotels, or a new outdoor district. Redevelopment may increase income and reduce dependence on traditional department stores. It also requires capital before the new rent begins. Walls must be demolished. Utilities must be separated. Entrances, loading areas, fire systems, and parking patterns may need to be redesigned. A vacant box is not automatically an opportunity. It is an opportunity with a construction budget attached. Now look at the leasing process itself. A store does not always pay for every improvement needed to open. The landlord may provide a tenant improvement allowance to build walls, flooring, electrical systems, plumbing, signage, or storefronts. It may also offer free rent, reduced introductory rent, or pay leasing commissions to brokers. In 2025, Simon reported average initial base rent of about $65 per square foot on new U.S. mall and outlet leases. Its average tenant allowance on those new leases was almost $64 per square foot. Those numbers are measured differently. One is annual rent, while the other is an upfront contribution. But together they show why a signed lease does not immediately mean free cash. The landlord may spend nearly 1 year of initial base rent before the new store opens. A tenant can sign today. The owner may wait months for construction, permits, and rent commencement. This creates the first financial trap. Occupancy is not the same as cash flow. A property can announce new leases while still spending heavily to prepare the space. It can report a high lease percentage while some tenants have not opened or started paying full rent. It can replace a bankrupt retailer with a stronger brand and still experience a year of lost rent and construction cost. Now, consider tenant mix. A mall filled with 20 shoe stores does not automatically become stronger because every unit is occupied. The stores may compete for the same customer and weaken one another. A useful tenant mix gives people several reasons to visit. Retail provides products people want to examine physically. Restaurants extend the visit into lunch or dinner. Entertainment provides a reason to come without planning a purchase. Fitness, beauty, medical, education, and services create repeated visits throughout the week. The mall is strongest when one tenant's customer becomes another tenant's traffic. This is why leasing is not only about filling empty rectangles. It is about constructing a network of compatible demand. Now we reach the anchor problem. A department store may occupy 200,000 square feet and pay relatively low rent. A landlord could look at that rent and conclude the anchor is not important. Then the department store closes. The direct rent loss may be manageable. The indirect loss may be enormous. Fewer shoppers walk past nearby stores. Retailer sales fall. New tenants become harder to attract. Existing tenants demand concessions when their leases expire. Some leases contain co-tenancy provisions. If a named anchor closes or occupancy falls below a threshold, another tenant may gain the right to pay reduced rent. It may delay opening. In some cases, it may terminate the lease. One empty department store can therefore reduce income from stores that remain open. The missing anchor does not only create vacancy. It changes the legal and economic obligations across the property. The effect can become even worse when the department store owns its own building. It may stop operating while continuing to hold the real estate. The mall owner loses customer traffic but cannot immediately divide or replace the space. The lights may remain off for years while two owners negotiate over access, parking, demolition, and redevelopment. This is the second financial trap. The most important space in a mall may be the space the mall owner does not fully control. Now build a simplified annual model for a 1 million square foot regional mall. Assume 900,000 square feet are leased. 500,000 square feet of smaller inline stores pay an average of $58 per square foot. That creates $29 million of annual base rent. 250,000 square feet of anchors and large tenants pay an average of $9 per square foot. They contribute about $2.25 million. Another 150,000 square feet of dining, entertainment, and freestanding uses pay an average of $34. They contribute approximately $5.1 million. Total base rent reaches about $36.4 million. Tenant reimbursements for common area operations, taxes, insurance, utilities, and marketing add $12 million. Percentage rent, kiosks, advertising, parking, events, and other property income contribute another $4.6 million. Total property revenue reaches approximately $53 million. Now subtract the operating machine. Security, cleaning, utilities, landscaping, waste services, and day-to-day property operations consume $10.5 million. Real estate taxes and insurance require another $7.5 million. Repairs and routine maintenance consume $3.5 million. Marketing, management, accounting, and administration require another $3 million. The property produces net operating income of approximately $28.5 million. That sounds extremely profitable, but the owner is not finished. Tenant allowances, leasing commissions, and recurring space preparation consume an average of $5 million. A capital reserve for roofs, parking surfaces, air conditioning, elevators, and major building systems requires $4 million. Annual mortgage payments and financing costs consume approximately $14 million. Only about $5.5 million remains before taxes, ownership overhead, and major surprises. $53 million enter the property. Roughly 10% remained as owner cash flow in this simplified model. The mall looked full of rent. Much of that rent was already promised to the building, the tenants, and the lender. Now change one variable. Occupancy falls from 90% to 82%. 80,000 square feet becomes vacant, mostly among higher rent inline stores. Base rent and expense recoveries decline by almost $6 million. Percentage rent, advertising value, and temporary leasing income also weaken as traffic falls. Security, property tax, insurance, mortgage payments, and most building systems remain almost unchanged. The original $5.5 million of owner cash flow disappears. The mall is still more than 80% occupied. Most customers may not notice the financial crisis. Now change a second variable. Assume the property carries a $250 million loan that must be refinanced. At 4% interest, the annual interest cost is $10 million. At 6.5%, it becomes $16.25 million. Nothing about the stores changed. Occupancy did not decline. Customers did not stop shopping. The refinancing alone adds more than $6 million of annual interest. That increase is larger than the original owner cash flow. This is why the value of a mall can fall even while the corridors remain busy. Commercial real estate is priced heavily through net operating income and capitalization rates. At a 7% capitalization rate, $28 million of NOI implies a value near $400 million. At 9% rate, the same NOI implies a value near $311 million. The same stores can remain open. The same tenants can pay the same rent. A change in capital market expectations can remove almost $90 million of property value. Several financial traps are now visible. High occupancy does not guarantee strong cash flow if the leases are cheap or require large concessions. A famous anchor may pay little rent but protect the value of dozens of surrounding leases. Tenant reimbursements do not eliminate expenses when recoveries are capped or incomplete. A signed lease may require months of construction before full rent begins. An older building may produce stable NOI while quietly accumulating a roof, parking, or air conditioning replacement problem. A mall owner is therefore managing more than shops. The owner is managing contracts, traffic, construction, capital markets, and the future physical form of the property. Now look at a failure case, CBL Properties. CBL owned and managed a large portfolio of regional shopping centers, many serving secondary markets. For years, department store weakness, retailer bankruptcies, store closures, and changing consumer behavior pressured parts of the portfolio. In 2019, CBL reported a decline in same-center net operating income. At Park Plaza Mall, falling income and a $78 million loan approaching maturity contributed to a substantial property impairment. Then the 2020 shutdown accelerated the pressure. Tenant payments weakened while debt, insurance, maintenance, taxes, and financing obligations continued. CBL entered Chapter 11 in November 2020 to restructure its balance sheet. Its restructuring plan was designed to eliminate roughly $900 million of debt and at least $600 million of other obligations. The malls did not all disappear when the filing occurred. Stores continued operating. Employees continued maintaining properties. Customers could still walk through the corridors. But lenders gained powerful rights over cash, and multiple property loans entered default, receivership, restructuring, or foreclosure discussions. Some malls were transferred to lenders in satisfaction of non-recourse debt. That is what shopping mall failure can look like. The food court can remain open. The mortgage can already be broken. The parking lot can contain cars. The property can still be worth less than the debt attached to it. Bankruptcy did not prove that every mall was worthless. It proved that a portfolio built for one retail environment can become financially unstable when tenant weakness meets heavy debt and near-term maturities. Now compare that with Simon Property Group's stronger model. At the end of 2025, Simon owned or held interests in more than 200 income-producing U.S. retail properties. Its portfolio included malls, premium outlets, Mills centers, lifestyle centers, and other retail assets. Its U.S. malls and premium outlets reported 96.4% occupancy and average base rent of $60.97 per square foot. Retailer sales averaged approximately $799 per square foot. Simon generated more than $5.8 billion of lease income during the year. Those results did not come from leaving the properties unchanged. The company continually signs leases, replaces tenants, adds restaurants and anchors, redevelops existing space, and invests in new uses. Its scale provides relationships with national brands across many locations. A retailer negotiating one store may be dealing with the same landlord across dozens of markets. Simon can spread marketing, data, leasing teams, purchasing, management, and access to capital across a large portfolio. It can also sell non-core assets and direct capital towards stronger properties. Scale does not make every shopping center successful. It gives the operator more tools to distinguish which properties deserve additional investment. The weak mall owner tries to fill every empty space. The strong owner builds a tenant mix that creates repeat traffic. The weak owner measures occupancy. The strong owner measures tenant sales, rent quality, opening dates, and leasing cost. The weak owner sees an empty anchor as lost rent. The strong owner evaluates whether the box should become retail, restaurants, entertainment, apartments, medical space, or something entirely different. The weak owner protects the original building. The strong owner protects the economic usefulness of the land. Same corridors, different business. Now ask what a sophisticated buyer examines before acquiring a shopping mall. The buyer begins with the trade area. Population, household income, tourism, employment, transportation, competition, and future housing determine who can realistically visit the property. Then comes tenant performance. The buyer studies sales per square foot, rent-to-sales ratios, lease expirations, bankruptcy exposure, rent collections, and occupancy costs. It separates occupied space from economically healthy space. Then comes the anchor structure. Who owns each large box? Which parking areas and access roads are controlled through shared agreements? Which closures can trigger co-tenancy rights? How much capital would be required to divide or replace an anchor? Then comes the building. The buyer examines the roof, air conditioning, elevators, escalators, parking, drainage, fire systems, and deferred maintenance. A mall can have attractive income and an approaching $50 million capital problem. Finally, the buyer studies the land. Can part of the parking field support apartments? Does zoning allow hotels, offices, medical uses, or additional density? Could the property become a mixed-use district instead of remaining a traditional mall? Ordinary buyers see stores and monthly rent. Sophisticated buyers see lease duration, traffic quality, control rights, capital needs, and multiple future uses for the same land. The future of shopping malls will be shaped by three major changes. First, the strongest properties will become less dependent on traditional apparel retail. Food, entertainment, health, fitness, services, luxury, events, and digitally native brands will occupy more of the tenant mix. The customer will visit for several reasons during one trip. Second, more mall land will be converted into mixed-use districts. Apartments, hotels, medical offices, workplaces, and outdoor streets can create customers who live or work beside the retail. The parking lot becomes development inventory. Third, physical stores and online commerce will become more connected. Stores can provide product discovery, pickup, returns, service, and immediate fulfillment. The winning mall will not defeat the internet. It will give retailers and customers something the internet cannot provide alone. So can owning a shopping mall make you rich? Yes, but not because hundreds of stores automatically send rent every month. The strong version controls a valuable trade area, signs productive tenants, and gives customers several reasons to return. It maintains the building before major systems fail. It manages debt conservatively and retains enough capital to replace weak anchors. Most importantly, it is willing to change the property when the original retail format no longer fits the market. The weak version confuses occupied space with secure income. It depends on department stores that no longer create enough traffic. It postpones repairs, increases debt, and hopes the next retailer will restore the past. From the parking lot, both malls may still look similar. The signs remain above the entrances. The escalators continue moving. Music plays through the corridors. But one owner controls a productive network of tenants, customers, contracts, and redevelopment options. The other owns an aging building that needs the retail world to stop changing. The building is not the business. Controlling the traffic, the tenant mix, and what the land can become next is.